What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now, Back to the Past. I'm Alex. In this video, we're gonna go deep into Street Fighter V. I can't even believe I'm saying that. So what we gotta do, we gotta go through the history of my experience with fighting games with Street Fighter, but I did play Street Fighter V. It was on a whim, and I'll walk you guys through that, but I truly do believe, did this game make me a fan of Street Fighter? I think it got me on the path. It kind of like picked me up and like dropped me on a road. But then I like saw the demo and then the beta for Street Fighter 6 like down the road, and I started walking towards it. Does that make sense? So Street Fighter 5 like put me on the path, and then 6 started to like make me walk. And now I believe I'm in. Cutting to the end of the story, I'm totally in. Street Fighter 6, from the beta at least, is an absolute blast, and I'm very much, I don't even know, I would say, considering buying Street Fighter 6. I think I'm probably more yes than no buying this sixth game, which is kind of nuts considering if you asked me a few weeks ago, I would have said, well, I have no interest, like literally no interest. So let's start at the beginning. Number one, you should know about me, fighting games is my like weak spot. Fighting games, maybe like racing games. There's just some games that I've never been able to get into. That doesn't mean I hate them. I can respect them, also just not be good at them, or also just not have that big of an interest in them. And fighting games has always kind of been that for me. So Mortal Kombat I have been into for quite a while. I remember like renting them from not Blockbuster, but whatever like came, Family Video, whatever came after Blockbuster, at least in my local area. I remember renting them. I would play like the story mode. I don't think I played much online. I would do the story mode. I would play against friends. So I have played a Tekken game like in my past. I don't think I've ever played Street Fighter. Like it definitely doesn't it doesn't ring any bells. Soul Calibur I have. I think Soul Calibur 4 I played against a friend multiple times. He would destroy me at it. And that's the one I think with Darth Vader and all that, right? Whichever one had Darth Vader, that's the one that I believe that I played. But that was a lot of fun. I just am never good at them. And I also just don't care all that much. So it's just never been at the front of my radar. But, you know, this channel has opened up a lot of possibilities and has made me want to go back, or actually almost need to go back for content purposes, right? So as we get closer to Street Fighter 6, when I've seen the trailers and they look amazing. Like every single time I saw 6, I remember when it was first announced, like I was there, you know, I was watching just like everybody else. And I can see, like, visually, I was massively impressed, and I was like, holy dear God, this looks incredible. But my, I don't know, the result in that has always been, I'm not interested. Like, it looks fantastic, and even the fighting looks fantastic, but I'm just not into it. So that's really been my story. And then, you know, a few weeks ago, it was a little bit of a dead time, right? I think it was right before Zelda came out, and it turns out my wife stole Zelda from me anyway, so I'm still not playing it. But, you know, there was a lull, and I said, okay, well, Street Fighter, I think a bunch of them are on PlayStation Plus. They could be on Game Pass as well, but I was just on PlayStation on that day, and I saw Street Fighter 5, and I said, let's do it. Let's try this freaking game, and let's see what it's all about. So I clicked on it, I downloaded it, and the rest is history. Now, what I find fascinating about Street Fighter V, and I want to talk about this, even though I wasn't around or even cared when, you know, the game first came out, I've, you know, kind of went back in the history books, and it certainly seems like, at least to me, that this game had an extremely troubled, like, launch in terms of like what was in the game. Seems like very, very bare bones. The story mode coming months afterwards, all this DLC, just modes in general, just not being there, and then eventually being added, or just not added, you know, in general. These servers, I saw loads of stories where like the internet was like, well, actually from their end, not from people's end, from their end, the internet was garbage. So even when the game launched, like for the most part, the only thing you could do was play online against other people with a very limited roster, mind you, and that didn't even work for, you know, half the people out there or whatever. So that I find that very interesting. I find that kind of scary. Now, Street Fighter 6 obviously to me seems pretty different. I think that's generally the reception for 6. Although DLC characters, I have seen people complain about how they're limiting like who's on the roster and who will come later. So that may be one thing, but it certainly seems like 5 was kind of a disaster when it first came out, but then it became something. It really did become something. I watched an essay video that was talking about how it's almost like they went more for like an esports group, because just the idea of fighting with other people seemed to be the most important aspect of this game at launch, and it was really the only aspect at launch, but it was maybe for like that esports community kind of catch on, and it did. Street Fighter became, I feel like with Street Fighter V, it really took that next step, and this was kind of that natural progression of the visuals, the style of visuals from 4, I believe, was maybe the first one to do it, right? That's where I guess the people that were playing it day one, that's what they got to experience. I got what you see behind me, the Champion Edition. So again, that's on PlayStation Plus, like it's for free or whatever. It comes with 40 plus characters, comes with all the modes, everything that's been out. But again, as I've been told, like this game had support for like 5-6 years. Like they kept adding and adding and adding, which is good. I mean, that's definitely a good thing. You don't want to start necessarily where they started, but maybe a redemption story this game had. So I played it. Now, what you're going to see, and what you've probably already seen a little bit, because I like to throw in some of my gameplay as I'm talking, you've probably seen the worst gameplay you've ever seen in your life, right? Like the worst fighting possible. And it's because I'm about as garbage as can be. Now, let me save myself just a bit, because let me just say, maybe I can even splice in some Street Fighter 6 beta promos, gameplay snippets into this video. Street Fighter 5 to me is so hard. Like I can't do it. Now, I actually enjoyed my time. And again, it's why, to me, it put me on the path, and it said, okay, well, here's the visuals. Here's how the game kind of operates. Like, I did get a sense. You get a sense for combos. You get a sense for blocking. And again, like, because I don't play too many other games, is moving in the opposite direction always block? Because I don't remember that being the case for Mortal Kombat, but I could just literally not know what I'm talking about. But, you get like a sense of how the game actually operates. Now, I got a sense, but I'm also like really terrible at it. And I would lose, probably 90% of the online matches I played in Street Fighter V. I lost. Now, I'm coming into it, 7 years, like much later, like close to a decade after the game released. So I don't know. Well, I guess, the ranking system does try to put you with people close to you. Now, I'll tell you, there were people with the same rank as me that totally knew what they were doing, and I did not. So I would like to say that's a little bit unfair. I want people like me that had absolutely no clue what was going on, and I didn't really receive that. I actually got more of that in Street Fighter 6's beta than I got in Street Fighter 5. So I did the online match quite a bit. I did some of the, I don't know what it's called, like the story mode, but it's the mode that's for like the specific characters where you go through like a small little tale with them. I've never really been into those. PlayStation All-Stars did that, and it's fine, but it's not something I'd ever like do with every character. I did it for like 2 people, and I was like, I've had enough. I don't really need to do this. But here's the thing. I did the story mode, however long it is, 3-4-ish hours. I actually had read online that it's shorter, but it took me like quite a while to do it. Now, I'll tell you this. I actually loved it. I've seen a lot of people, like the consensus seemingly online is that the story for it is really bad. At least that's what I've seen. I don't know maybe if you guys agree in the comments, and maybe I don't know where I'm looking this up. But I've seen a lot of negativity towards the story mode. I think it's wild. I think it takes probably half of it to like really get good. Like I think the second half of it is extremely good. I think the first half is a little boring and a little like, well, you have to like introduce characters and like get us into it. I think things start to pick up and almost like a Fast and Furious, like where it's just so elevated, like everything is just so like above where it should be. That's really the second half of it. But to be honest with you, I loved it. And it's got, again, for me, the only comparable I have is like Mortal Kombat, right? Because that is one I've played. So I played Mortal Kombat. I played Injustice. Those were 2 that I did play. Again, Mortal Kombat, not all of them. Injustice, I did play both 1 and 2. I actually made videos, I believe, on Injustice 2. So, those are my only comparables. And I like the idea that it jumps so much, right? So you get one conversation between like a group and you'll play as one, and you'll know if you're gonna like win the fight or lose the fight depending on who you're playing as. Maybe you'll play as like the aggressor, right? So somebody will be talking to somebody else, and then a third party walks in and says, hey, give me that disc, and then they're like, no, and it's like, oh, this is drama heavy, and then but it'll make you play as the person like going after them, so it's like, oh, you're gonna win, and I like it. I really do like it, and I liked all sorts of different characters. Now, I think I'm gonna get there with Street Fighter 6, but seemingly for 6, I kind of like some of the more, and I don't know if this is actually true, like the slower characters. And I guess what I mean by that, like Ken, Ryu, Chun-Li, like those are my 3 mains in the Street Fighter 6 beta. I can do the best, and I have legitimately won matches against people as those, okay? The ones that are more like bouncy and like longer, I guess Chun-Li is kind of like in the middle, but the ones that are a little bit more bouncy in 6, I can't do, at least right now. I haven't like gotten a feel for, I feel like you have to play them very, very specifically, and I just can't do it. Honestly enough, for Street Fighter V, I kind of liked the bigger, like Fang, right? And I think he was a new character. Maybe I'm wrong there, but I like him like quite a bit. I don't know if I like the voice. I don't know if I like the character. He was probably the most annoying character I've ever seen. I don't know if it's the most annoying character, but no, I'm not sure if I loved him so much in the story, but I will tell you, I really liked playing as him in terms of, online or whatever. And, when you have a roster of like 40 plus people, which is what Street Fighter V at the end of the day had, you do have like a range. Like there's plenty of different kinds of characters, but I did find myself 4-5. Now again, like I lost so much. Like really, I couldn't win as anybody. So I guess what I'm saying is literally who I just felt the most comfortable playing as, who I thought that I maybe had some sort of shot with, were actually some of the more bouncy, longer, I guess tall, does that mean you're longer? Like longer-ish characters. Those are who I kind of connected with the most, which is odd because those were the first characters I tried. Some of them, obviously some of them are not in the beta for 6, right? But that was the first kind of group of characters I chose for 6, and I was like, oh no, this is not working. This is not. Now, in 6, I'm doing the modern controls, so it's much easier, at least for my simple-minded brain. And then for 5, I don't know if they even had that. I don't think they did. It's the hardcore. You figure it out. You do these combinations and you deal with it. And again, I just can't do it. I literally cannot do it. So to be honest with you, I don't even think like the demo and the beta for 6 is what made me walk down the road. I like this analogy. I'm going to like paint it eventually. But honestly, I don't even know if I would say that. I would more or less say that starting the demo and when they do the tutorial, like the training, and as soon as it lets you pick not the classic controls, but the modern controls, as soon as it lets you do that, it clicked. Like it clicked, and I was like, okay, well now the hardest part, and there could maybe be purists out there that say, if you're not, like, am I playing it wrong? Maybe, and I don't disagree too much with people that probably think like that. I'm sure there's Street Fighter fans or there's just fighting game fans in general that probably slam their head into a wall when they learn that these games have like embraced like modern controls to make it easier. But like at the end of the day, I think if you know what you're doing, you're always going to be good. And if you don't know what you're doing, you're always going to be bad. So although like stringing together moves is easier for me, there are still people I played, at least in 6, that just absolutely know what they're doing and know how to, and it just are better than me. In 5, everybody is better than me, and you're all playing by the same control system, so I guess take that for what you will. But, I enjoyed my time. I'll say this. I enjoyed my time with Street Fighter V. I found that even when I was losing, like I would lose so much and I would have long streaks of losing and I would get frustrated and I wouldn't throw anything or anything, but I would just get a little bit mad. But like I kept wanting to go, like keep going. And I would do things like play the online mode and then jump into the story and then come back to like have a little bit of a break. And like the story was a nice little breath of fresh air. It wasn't as hard. There were some fights against the AI in the story mode that seemed way harder than others. Like some of them seemed like I could do it with my eyes closed, and I legitimately mean that. Like it really wasn't hard. But then some of like the later fights, and I guess maybe did it get more difficult as the game went on? That would make sense if it did that. But some of those later fights were, to me, impossible. Literally impossible. So I will not lie to you. I skipped some of them. I skipped some of the fights because at the end of the day, it's like, well, I'm always losing. I lose in multiplayer. I lose in the story mode. I'm kind of here just to see the story. So do I need to win this fight? Not really. Like I can skip it and then I can just get back to the story, which is just why I kind of want to see what they do. And I liked it. I think the voice acting across the board was pretty good. Again, there was the things here and there, some people here and there, not so good. I think it's kind of over the top and nuts. But again, I have nothing to compare it to. Like, I'm just, and I can understand how people would watch this and say, well, your opinion, like, does it really matter what I'm saying? No, to some people, right? Like, maybe you want like a Street Fighter diehard fan. I'm coming at Street Fighter 5 as this was the first one. So if they had stories in the past, if they didn't have stories in the past, like, I enjoyed the story of 5. So like everything that I would play from now on, I would compare to the story of 5. Maybe to a lot of people would beat it. To me, I liked it overall. Again, I had that like elevated, like, I'm not gonna take this seriously. Literally, I think that's. I don't know if that's always been the thing with Street Fighter. Maybe it has, maybe it hasn't. But I, at no point, ever took that story of Street Fighter 5 seriously. And I think you're better off to do it like that. Maybe that's why I like Fast and Furious. So let me know what you guys think about Street Fighter 5 in the comments below. I'll be making videos on Street Fighter 6 on the main channel. Like I said, I'm kind of in. I think this game got me on the right path, and now it's just up to me to continue to take those steps. So make sure you're all subscribed, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.